Hello, everybody. I have to apologize. There was a little bit of miscommunication, but with two of our main guests. But we have two of our main guests here with us. We have Aisha with us, and we have Lisa Kakar with us. Both of them are Afghani ladies, and we are still waiting for our professor guests, Iulia Motoc and Cynthia Enloe. Of course, it's not easy to coordinate different times. Iulia Motoc is already with us. Professor Iulia Motoc, welcome. We are very happy that we have three guests here. We are still waiting for Professor Cynthia Enloe, who is her time is 7 o'clock in the morning, and last week she was in Reykjavik. So we need to be a little bit patient to start this event, but we are very happy to have with us Aisha and Lisa and Iulia. So I am trying to, we are waiting just 2 more minutes for Professor Cynthia Enloe, because it seems that I did not convey to her very clearly that she just needs to click on the link. I think she was waiting a Zoom call, which is not the case. We are working in our university with WebEx. So we will wait a little bit, 1 more minute, and I hope that Cynthia, yes. I'm writing to Cynthia right now. So she needs to click the link and then accept to be a guest.
And the password, Afghanistan.
Just a second. She's going to be with us in a minute, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, so we I think she's going to make it. Maybe I will have to communicate with her if she will come back to me, I mean by email, but I think she's going to succeed. I do hope so. Let me, maybe I will, before starting, I will ask Anna Maria to get in touch with Cynthia and maybe communicate with her just to make sure she will get in. If that's all right, Anna.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I would like to welcome you all to this special event, which is dedicated to the situation of women in Afghanistan, and which is dedicated to building solidarity with their situation, and it's dedicated to trying to figure out what would be best to do for women from outside Afghanistan to support them inside, and how we can help. This is the basic idea of this event. Let me introduce you our guest who is speaking from Afghanistan, Aisha. This is not her name, her real name, and she's not going to appear with the camera. Let me welcome Miss Lisa Kakar, who is speaking from Sweden, but herself being an Afghan feminist and who has a record of activism in favor of women in Afghanistan. And let me welcome Professor Iulia Motoc, who is judge at the European Human Rights Court and professor at the University of Bucharest. Cynthia Enloe, who we hope that will be part of our discussion today. I'm sure she will succeed. Well, the question we need to discuss today is how can we help, basically. Let me just remind the audience what happened in Afghanistan ever since the Taliban regime took shape there. The Ministry of Women Affairs was transformed into the Ministry of Vice and Virtue. Women were fired from their jobs in all sectors except health. Women are banned from most activities, including playing sports. New regulations were introduced for segregating universities based on gender. Women are confined to private spaces, while the disappearance of the shelters cut off a vital escape route for women and girls fleeing domestic abuse, sexual violence, and forced marriages. Against this background, I am going to invite our first speaker, Aisha, to tell us from inside how does she feel and what is actually happening there. So Aisha, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks from all of you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the situation of Afghanistan. With apologize, I'm gonna starting my conversation. Today, maybe it will take a longer time for me to explain because the current situation, whatever I'm telling you, is not about a person, a place, or a thing. It is about the 35 innocent people of Afghanistan. Today, the chaos that happened on the world, the Republic of Afghanistan has been changed into Islamic Emirates. Taliban claims that 14 years battle of Afghanistan has been finished. Islam has won. But our ancestors, our grandfathers had accepted the truth of Islam on the 7th century by the Arabian tribes. The 14 years battle made just our adults paralyzed. They gave us only orphans and 1,000 widows. According to the Taliban's rules, women shouldn't go to work or education. Why? Because Taliban have hired some illiterate people. They are afraid that those people do something wrong against women. Is this logical? While in past 20 years we have gained thousands of educated people, now they are dying at the borders of Iran, Pakistan, Turkey. Why? Because they are Uzbek, Hazara, Tajik. They can't work and live in their own country. So what about Rashid Khan? He is a well-known, famous cricket player of Afghanistan. He has also lost his job, his passion. Why? Although he was a Pashto speaker, he was also Muslim. Am I right? So this battle is not, none of Afghan is winner of this battle. This battle is not about Islam, about Afghans. I'm not a scholar of Islam. I don't have many wisdom to explain Islam in here. But as a Muslim, whatever I know, you call her Marie, and we called her Maryam. Maryam is an holy name that Allah has sent a chapter to has by her name. But Maryams in Afghanistan are now bigger because they had lost their job. To feed up their children, they have to be bigger. I don't know if Taliban's are aware or not about this, but the first wife of our messenger, peace be upon him, was a famous merchant widow woman. She was 40 years old, but our Muhammad, peace be upon him, was 25 years old when they got married. So what does it mean? It means on the Islam, women has right of freedom and peace. So why we don't have?
Aisha, may I interrupt you just a little bit, just to ask you to present in a few words or as many words as you wish. What is
Okay.
your situation, your concrete situation? Because I think that people would like to hear a live testimony about you.
About my current situation. Okay, ma'am. I'm Aisha from Afghanistan. I'm just 25 years old. I have done my bachelor's education. Before Taliban, I had job, but now I have nothing. Without fear, violence. It is not only about me, it is about the whole people of Afghanistan. I have smaller siblings who went to schools. My sisters now can't go to school, but we are afraid of my brother because we don't know, we can't monitor what he's learning from the schools. It is really very embarrassing for us. We had lost everything, freedom, peace, education, everything, but we cannot tolerate our children to grow up as a Talib. It is really very embarrassing for us.
So what I understood from what you said previously is that you believe that the Taliban actually, they are not acting as Muslims. Am I right? Did I understand well? Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, ma'am. Taliban are actually not real Muslims. They are just utilizing the symbols of Islam. Today I want to call all the Muslims of the world to not be silent against Taliban. Today the world must understand and differentiate between Muslims and the Talibans. Islam is not a religion of prison. It has many thousand things. Human has right on the Islam. Animals has right. Woman has right.
Yes.
Why
So,
we have to live? Why we have to live according to the past centuries? This is the main question. Afghanistan needs development, education.
what do you think that people like us from outside can do? Because I heard that you are calling upon Muslims around the world to help you. But what do you think that we can do from outside? Or who do you think can do things from outside for you, for the situation of women in Afghanistan?
I'm not only calling Muslims, I want to call all the world, because if the Taliban win the battle, then humanity will lose. Humanity will be the loser of this battle. One day they will destroy all the world.
I see. Thank you very much, Aisha. Please, if you would like to tell us some more things, If not right now, we are going to give you the floor later on for more questions, and maybe you can answer to particular questions that the audience is going to ask.
Okay,
It
ma'am.
depends on you. If you want to, if you have some other things to say right now, please go ahead.
No, ma'am. I would like to start answering your questions.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you for being with us, and I really appreciate that you emphasize the fact that you are not speaking only for yourself, but you are speaking for all women there and the whole society there, which needs development and peace, most of all. So thank you again, Aisha. I would like to give the floor now to Ms. Lisa Kakar, who is speaking from Sweden. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, she's a leading feminist, Afghan feminist, and she succeeded in leaving the country in 2018. And she's now doing a master in international business, and she was awarded by Sweden with a global award for her entrepreneurship. And she and her sister Helena, they founded a feminist journal in Afghanistan back in 2011. And I'm going to invite her to present perhaps herself more and what is her viewpoint in terms of what can be done from outside to support women in Afghanistan. So thank you very much, Lisa, for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Liliana. Thanks for the nice introduction. And I'm so happy, and I would like to thank the organizer of this event that give me a chance to be the voice of unprivileged woman of Afghanistan in this event. I am Lisa Kakar and the co-founder of RUIDAD, the feminist, Afghan feminist movement, and women rights activist from Afghanistan. I want to share the issues and struggle of Afghan women that they have faced so far, and what I have also experienced it, and what we can do it to address these issues. Well, Afghanistan was not the same as it is today. Once upon a time, Afghanistan was a developed country in the region, but due to the conflict of Cold War, groupism, jihadis, Taliban have changed our country into the ball of political, economical, environmental, security, and also health crisis as well. These conflicts and war not only impact the social economy of the country, but also it had really bad influence on people and have changed the mindset of Afghan people, especially the mindset of religion as a tool by the latter conflicts that brainwash the people to the point that it's not easy to return from that point. And unfortunately, the illiteracy of our people have contributed to this as well. And they have imposed the ideas such as women are created as a sexual tool to pleasure men. Women are as a tool to be unpaid maid for the houses and serve the man as instructed. But have changed the mindset of people to consider these all as a culture and religion thoughts. After the fall of Taliban regime, first regime I mean, and establishment of Afghanistan government, the human or woman right was prioritized in Afghanistan government. However, due to extremist mindset and the social structure of country, women were suffering from injustice and different types of discrimination, which I would like to give a few examples of that, that only these issues only penetrate to international media. First is Farkhanda, the making of martyr, BBC News. Second is Aisha. Aisha told 2 times that her nose and hair were cut by the approval of a Taliban commander by her abusive man, that she ran away. BBC News. Reza Gul, the Afghan woman whose husband cut her nose. BBC News. Afghan woman footballer who speak out that the sexual scandal is going on in the Federation, the Telegram. Well, the list goes on if I take, as the time does not allow me to mention all the cases here. As I also mentioned that these are injustice penetrate to international media because it is just the top of the iceberg. The ground reality is much more horrifying than this. I think maybe most of the people think that responsible people for these actions were brought to justice. In case of Farkhanda, who has stoned to death in the public in the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, I would like to share some news that come into the media. They neglected their duty. General Zahir, Kabul Police Criminal Investigate Chief told to BBC. So nothing. None of these people who have committed this injustice to the Afghan woman has been punished or has been happened anything to them. And like instead the killer of Farkhanda, that she had been stoned to death in capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, the killer of Farkhanda and the imperator of Aisha and Reza Gul were presided by the illiterate Islamic scholars in the mosque around the country. Well, so nothing. No justice at all for Afghan women. Illiterate women in Afghanistan are slaves of their men, as they do not have the basic rights of hearing, smelling, watching, and even breathing. Otherwise, they will lose their hair, nose, eyes, or even have been killed. Literate women on another side are getting harassed in the workplace, and people are labeling them as a bad woman. Society and discourage the educated family to allow their daughters to go outside or to be in the work environment. And these issues are trying to destroy the dreams that each young Afghan woman are trying to do in their life, like forced marriage, child marriage, rape, sexual harassment, are so isolated topics in countries like Sweden, maybe Romania, or European countries, that they may not believe that these things may happen in 21st century. But unfortunately, these all are happening. And some of these cases may even not be reflected in the local media because no one is like covering this all issues. So I don't want to talk all about the negative things in the past 20 years. I'm just talking these like before the second regime of Taliban. Positives also happen in Afghanistan. I have witnessed lots of change and process in Afghanistan. I have also witnessed that in order to address these problems, we need to empower Afghan women to carve a niche for themselves in the social, economic, and political areas. Together, we can work to educate women about their rights, encourage them to defend themselves, enable them to become financially independent, teach them how to be the active member of the society, make them understand that they are as equal as a man and they are not the second element into the society, and to make an unbreakable force. So there are some strong women in the past 20 years before the second regime of Taliban. There were women who are trying to bring change into the country and to promote the women's equal rights in the male-dominated society. There are women trying to provide tools and means for other women to fight for their rights. There are women who are raising their voices for the Afghan women and try to give them hope. There are women who are trying to advocate for the Afghan women rights in the light of Islamic thoughts, like the RUIDAD publication that my sister, Helena Kakar, and we have published this back on 2011 to publish the issues that the people were not talking about, to write about the human rights, women rights. And these publications were printed in a limited edition and was distributed only in ministries. Why? Because feminist issue is still, it's not accepted in a country such as Afghanistan. Because people always relate in Afghanistan the feminist ideology that it will not suit Afghan culture. It's like European ideology that they always connected to the European people. I share one of my experience that we went for the first time to register RUIDAD magazine. And the person who was registering, he was not talking to us. Even he didn't look into our eyes. When they are talking, they are not looking at you as a person, as a woman. They just talk with someone else and tell them this and this. They are not directly talking to you. They didn't register the magazine back on 2011. You know why? Because of the logo. The RUIDAD magazine logo is a female symbol, which I think it's an international symbol and everyone know the symbol. But they thought that it's like a cross symbol, which is a Christian, and the ideas from Christian, so they didn't do that. This is the mindset that the feminist, the woman activist, how they are suffering in that kind of society, that they are thinking like this, or this is the way that they are thinking. Well, I can proudly say that I am one of those women that try to bring the change and try to do something positive for Afghan women into the society. It was really interesting to see that how this nightmare is changing for Afghan women as a hope, because we had access back to schools. Girls were going back to schools. We had Ministry of Women. Women were going to schools. Women were having job. Everything like a nightmare was changing as a dream for the Afghan women. Even though every people were supporting peace in Afghanistan, all Afghan citizens wanted to peace, but being as an Afghan woman, I was afraid. I was afraid of the deal between Taliban and United States. I was afraid that our hope, the hope that Afghan women had, may be lost once and for all. Now we see that Taliban is back in Afghanistan. Now again, the school doors are closed for the girls. Afghan women are no longer allowed to contribute into the society. They will be punished and executed publicly again. I'm so afraid. I'm afraid that my country is again back in the tourism territory. Right now we see that women are not allowed to go to schools. The boys, they announced it. Emirat has announced that boys can join the school, but still girls cannot do that. Women are not allowed to go to their workplaces. So it's like I'm imagining myself being in that kind of situation, that my all dream, all hope is gone. In the last 20 years, women has fight a lot for their rights. They have fight a lot. And it was not an easy fight for them as well. In European country, I'm emphasizing a lot in small issues that maybe it's a small in for other women, but these small issues are so big for Afghan women. Like, okay, going to work is a small thing, but this is like all Afghan women struggle and they fight for their rights to achieve that thing. I'm so sorry if I'm.
Thank you very much for this very emotional confession, but also at the same time, I feel that you succeeded very well in emphasizing both negative sides, but also the positive sides, the struggles, the issues that the women are facing there. So you describe very clearly and vividly what is happening. And what I realize, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is how, as a European, an Eastern European, I see things that women in Afghanistan tend not to be treated like people, like human beings, but like something else. It looks to me from outside that the Afghan society is more of a male society. It's the only part of society that has legitimacy, and that women are more like treated like beings who give birth to males. This is how I see things from outside, and it just came to my mind the definition of feminism. Feminism is that perspective which treats women as human beings, and you are doing that. And I have to congratulate you, and I have with I'm very humble in saying this, because I realize how much effort you put into being kind of accepting what is happening there, because this is reality, and it's a very cruel reality, and you are still trying to do something for it. And I have a lot of awe towards you and all your colleagues and all the women in Afghanistan. So thank you very much for being with us. Let me now turn to, we are going to have a question and answer session after we invite, and I'm very happy and grateful to Professor Cynthia Enloe that she's with us. I was sure she will get in. It was my fault, completely my fault, that I did not send the right signals in terms of links and everything else. But I'm so happy that she made it. And let me introduce you. Professor Cynthia Enloe is one of the stars of feminism in international relations. She published a series of books very influential and crucial for I would say, women's solidarity in the world. And I think this is the most important thing, that she revealed a number of things that are happening in the international arena, not only politically, but when it comes to global economy and the effects on women. And I'm thrilled that she's here and that we succeeded in making this connection with an American professor and a lady from Afghanistan and an activist, a feminist Afghan activist. Thank you, Cynthia. The floor is yours.
Hi, Liliana. Yes, technology will not defeat feminism, right?
On the contrary.
And it's so good to be here with all of you, as well as with Judge Motoc as well. But I am so moved by both Aisha and by Lisa in quite different situations, but giving us a sense of what your struggles are. And the only way, Liliana just used the term solidarity, and I don't know how that translates into Pashtun or Dari. In fact, it would be good if you told us, how do we say solidarity in Pashto or in Dari or other Afghan languages? It'd be good for us to know that, so we don't keep using English language terms. But one of the things I'm struck by, Aisha and Lisa, is what it means for us to be of use to you. I'm a kind of down-to-earth kind of person. I like to know how we can be useful. And one of the things I hear from you, Lisa, is we have to make really sure, and this was true in other countries, it may feel as though Afghanistan sometimes is unique, but it's not unique. I mean, that's the good news and the bad news, right? For, I'd say 30, no, maybe, well, now we're giving all secrets away. At least 30 or 40 years, I have heard feminists, active thinkers, active on the ground feminists in Sri Lanka, in India, in Nigeria, in so many countries, including in Eastern Europe, say one of the easiest ways to dismiss what we are trying to do here locally is to claim that feminist ideas and feminist dreams and feminist hopes are foreign, that they're just imported from someplace else, from France or from Britain or from the US or from Canada, as if an idea is foreign, or if most ideas that most of us live with are foreign. But the idea that if you can paint something, especially something that is new or that is uncomfortable for people who have privilege locally, if you can paint it as foreign, you can dismiss it. And Lisa and Aisha, you're both telling us that's also what is used in Afghanistan and has been for years. That is the painting of women's rights and women's dreams and women's, as Liliana said, women's humanity, as if that's a foreign import. And if it's a foreign import, then it's not legitimate. Then it's not worth taking seriously. So for us to be useful, for Iulia and Liliana and I and all the people who are listening in today, for us to be useful, we have to know how to practice solidarity with you without deepening that sense that we are simply foreign meddlers who don't understand Afghan realities. And that means we have to practice a kind of solidarity where you lead, where it's your ideas, it's your hopes that inform what we do. And that sometimes, that sometimes is kind of hard. People who get energized and exercised as feminists, we want to kind of plunge in and offer our ideas and our suggestions and our lessons and our strategies. But that isn't the way to be useful to you, I think. So I would love to hear from both Aisha and from Lisa. And I know you don't speak for everybody. We're just loading you on your shoulders with the burden of speaking for everybody. But I've listened to other Afghan feminists for years now. In fact, I have right here the declaration from April of the 90. Oh, see, my screen is double. Well, that's good. You get to see it doubly. This is a declaration that I know Aisha and Lisa, you both know, from the 90 women who met in Kabul in April to lay out the declaration. This is when the male-dominated peace, so-called peace negotiations were going on in Doha. And so these women met and said, okay, here is what real peace looks like. It looks like women's, not just equality, but women's equity, justice, right? And here is all the details that they should be taking on board, which of course they didn't. But it was such a strong statement back in April. And it was 90 women. I think, Lisa, is this right? You would probably know. Half of them were from outside Kabul. It wasn't just the Kabul capital women activists. It was also women from outside. And you can get this online for those of you who are listening. It's called, this is what to look for online, in English, I'm sorry. It's Afghan Women's Solidarity for Inclusive Peace. I'll say that again, because everybody should read it. We should all inform ourselves of what at least 90 very diverse Afghan women activists were calling for in April. I'll say it again. It's Afghan Women's Solidarity for Inclusive Peace. And that would be April 2021. And that should be our guide. So I would love to hear from both Aisha and from Lisa. First of all, warn us what we shouldn't do. When feminists outside get enthusiastic, we can, kind of make a mess of things. So
Yeah.
give us warnings, what we shouldn't do. And then if you can, and you don't have to lay out everything we should do, that's our job, but if you can also give us a sense at this moment, what can we do that's useful?
Cynthia, thank you very much. This is I think these are the first questions to be answered by both Aisha and Lisa. We'll invite them after listening to Professor Iulia Motoc. But thank you very much, Cynthia. As usual, you put the dots on I's, or on the many I's of this situation. We will resume the discussion after inviting Professor Iulia Motoc, who is currently a judge within the European Human Rights Court. She is a well-known international figure. I have to confess, she calls me my friend, and I'm her friend, and she's my friend. And I thank her very much for being here with us, because her legal mind may help in this situation. She knows so many things. She's been a rapporteur for a number of commissions within the United Nations. She has an international career, and I'm very happy she's here. So I will give her the floor right now. Oh, we cannot hear you, so I'm going to ask my colleagues to give you the right to unmute the speaker. Yes, I think you are.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Liliana. I'm very honored to be in this panel with Cynthia first, if I may, that I know for my books in schools already, and with Aisha and Lisa. Indeed, extremely impressive what you have said. And before being a judge at the European Court, I was, as Ms. Liliana mentioned, I was an UN expert. And in this capacity, I was a lot on the field, dealing with the massive violation of human rights sometimes, dealing with women's rights in a lot of countries around the world. And this contact with the victims, I think, is an essential one. As Cynthia mentioned before, I don't think that we can move forward without having this contact with the voices of the women on the ground, and without having a deep understanding of their situation and of their needs. And the needs of the victim on the ground are so different. Sometimes they are even different from the framework of human rights legal instruments that we have to go further and to see this in very, very concrete situation. But let me first of all come to the mainstream, even if I think that this mainstream might not be useful. But what I'm going to try now is to emphasize some of the tools, international legal tools that we have in this moment, even if I'm very much aware that maybe these tools are a little bit not fast, a little bit inefficient, and the sanctions sometimes do not touch the communities, especially now the Taliban's, at least at the beginning. And I will start first of all with the very classical legal instrument that we have at the UN as treaty body, with our CEDAW that we know all over, I think all of us around this table. And I managed to read the report on CEDAW, the last one in 2020, so before the events happened. And I saw, as Lisa mentioned, how many legal steps were taken by that time with the fight of the Afghan women in order to diminish some of the sanctions that exist for women in Afghanistan, like the honor crimes, like forbidden women, like putting still women in forced marriages, all this kind of sanction that were still there, but at least they were forbidden by the current legislation. That I suppose that in a country like Afghanistan, everybody knows that It's very, for geographical and topographical reasons, it's very difficult to be controlled. I think maybe this measure were easier to be enforced in Kabul maybe by that time, but not very easy to be enforced in villages or places that were not controlled, where I think that these traditional tribal and Muslim rules were still function. So even in 2020, or maybe even in the what we call the a better era for women in Afghanistan, this didn't happen for the whole society. But at least we had some women that could fight. They had the means to fight. They could work. They could go to schools. They were educated. So how we are going at least to go back to this situation, for sure with all CEDAW reports and for sure with all the legislation now, this legislation, this domestic legislation, and this belonging of the Afghanistan still to the CEDAW convention is not very much useful in this moment. So we need more powerful. More powerful means in order to fight for the international community, to fight with the situation there. And which are these tools? And I will go back maybe now to the least powerful tool, but still a tool where the General Assembly, where we can discuss this situation, where we can deal with the situation, and when we can make aware the international community about the very severe violation, massive violation, I would say, of human rights in Afghanistan happening now. And there the problem again is a problem that we were talking with Liliana before, how the international community will react in terms of coping, dealing with the Afghan government. And the reaction and the legal answer of the General Assembly is indeed that they are not going to give credential to this government, is what the General Assembly had done before and what the General Assembly will continue to do, because General Assembly does not give credentials to government that are illegal, to government that are that violates massively violates human rights. So there the authorities, the legitimate authorities can be, because we don't accept this kind of illegitimate government to be present. This is the first answer, is a customary answer, if I can now, an instant customary answer of the international community towards this kind of government. A first answer, but a majority of answers are in this direction. I will continue with the Security Council. The Security Council was active in Afghanistan before, after the events, and it is very important to see that the situation of women in Afghanistan is coated by the Security Council resolutions, that we can have a whole of mechanism against the regime, including a sanctionatory measure taken by the Security Council that might be in time enforced and might be efficient, but not really as the scale as we believe they could, but in time they could produce effect. Now I will go to another very important element for international law, the capacity to protect, which is also the capacity to rebuild. So in a sense, we withdrew from this capacity to rebuild. We had a duty to rebuild, and is still there with the international community, but how this duty to rebuild is really, it's really fulfilled by the international community. In relationship with this, I will go again back to the something that international community managed to construct at mid-90s as the International Criminal Court. As all of us know in this moment, the International Criminal Court, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and afterward the chamber opened investigation for Afghanistan already in 2017 regarding the crimes committed there, the crimes that are mentioned by the Rome statutes, like crimes against humanity and war crimes. And of course that if we imagine a responsibility of the individuals into this Rome status that was really that entered into force in 2002 for Afghanistan, we can have a whole of individual responsibility of certain individual of the situation that happened there, including crimes against women. And I think for my own experience as being a UN Special Rapporteur, for being a UN Special Rapporteur in very difficult country with a lot of crimes against humanity, like Democratic Republic of Congo. For 4 years, I was Special Rapporteur there, also with massive crimes against women, rape and horrible rape as used as a weapon of war, as we know. So for my experience, I think that people who committed crimes, they can be at the long run at least, or maybe at the medium run, sensitive to this kind of sanctions. They can be brought by the international community. So there are these things. I saw criminals there in DRC, and their fear, really fear towards this instrument. So maybe in this moment, I think that if this is the instrument that I believe most in terms of deterrence with these people, even if their level of education is that what Aisha just mentioned to us. And I hope that this will work for us in the future. But as Cynthia also, I would like very much, and I feel very privileged that I had the possibility, the honor, in fact, to speak with these victims of women that exist in Afghanistan, like Aisha and like Lisa, who belong to this community, and also have this fear and have this responsibility for all the victims in Afghanistan. And I would like to know more how they believe that their needs in legal terms can be met by us. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Iulia, for this very powerful speech, which addresses tools, international legal tools that can be used. And I am sure that both Lisa and Aisha listened attentively to what you had to say with your international experience. Now we have one question in the pipeline for both Cynthia and Iulia, but first of all, I would like to give the floor to Aisha and then to Lisa to respond to Cynthia's question. What do you think we can do in order to help women in Afghanistan? What is your viewpoint? I think that Aisha needs to be unmuted by our administrator. Okay. So
Okay.
Aisha, you have the floor, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for asking such a nice question. in my point of view, I don't know how much his possibility and facilities you have, but carrying the people who are still in Afghanistan into a safe country is much more important for now. Because whatever about the immigration rules that I have heard from units here and many other organizations, that every individual or every family must apply for humanitarian assistance from a third or second country. But I think it is a little bit tough for everyone, because currently most of people in Afghanistan doesn't has a passport, but they are innocent. They need to leave Afghanistan. Like me, many Afghan peoples are worrying today. They cannot feed up their children. They cannot monitor their children at the schools. Girls cannot go to schools. We are not safe in Afghanistan.
So I understand that safety comes first, humanitarian support. And
Yes,
it's important for you to have passports to be free to go if you wish so. This is what I gathered from your answer.
yes, ma'am. Taliban are trying hard to making to disturbing evacuation process of Afghans, because they want attention of the world to be the legitimate government of Afghanistan. They are trying hard to keep the people inside the Afghanistan. But within the Taliban violences, Taliban fears, we are also coping with financial crisis. That is why safety is priority for the people who are still in Afghanistan.
Thank you very much, Aisha. I would have a question, but I will just drop it without inviting you to answer. Just came to my mind. I'm just thinking about the mothers of the Talibans. Do they have any power whatsoever in order to influence the behavior of their sons? It's just a question that came to my mind. Maybe you can react to it later on. I'm going to give the floor to Lisa to give us her answer as to what can we do from outside to address the needs of Afghan women and Afghan people in the end.
Thank you, Liliana. But before I address your question, I would like to thank Iulia and Cynthia for the great things that they have mentioned. They were so important things. Thank you so much for that. Well, to address like what we can do for Afghan women being outside of the country, as Aisha also mentioned, the first thing is the security issues back for the women, because they are in really worst, if I say, condition, because my sister herself left the country 2 days ago. And there are lots of terrifying stories that I'm not allowed to share in here, that what's going on into the country. The picture that we are seeing on social media, as I mentioned also, it's like the top of the iceberg. The ground reality that what is happening in women in Afghanistan, we cannot describe that. So the first issue is the security, because we have lots of activist women that they are stuck in the country and they are hidden and they are living in the fear that what will happen to them tomorrow, no one knows that. And the second issue is, like Aisha also said, the financial crisis now the country is facing, because all banks are seized. There's like a limited amount of money that each family can withdraw from a bank, not more than that. There's no job in Afghanistan right now. The job opportunity is so down. I have seen the family that they do not have food on the floor to feed their kids. So what we women in here can do is that we need to advocate for those women back in Afghanistan, because we know that now they don't have the demonstration right as well, because it's banned in Afghanistan. At the first 2 or 3 days, women were on the streets. They were raising their voices, but after that, they have banned the demonstration. It's not allowed for women to be on the streets. So we are the women outside in here. At least we can be the voice for them. We can put pressure on international community that they should put pressure on Taliban, that they should allow them to go to school. That's like the first thing. And I also want to share my experience that if we tell them that, okay, this is the rule, do this, they will not do that like that. Because I have experienced this when we were doing the feminist activities. We went and said that, okay, we want to run a RUIDAD, the feminist magazine. And they said, no, it's not accepted by Islamic, or it's not matched with the Islamic rule. But what we have made change is that RUIDAD is the feminist magazine in the light of Islamic thought. So we can use the same mind thing that they are thinking, and according to that, match our work. Because education, Quran has said that the woman and man can go and do education. So this is something based on Quran. It's not from foreign rules. Women can work. It had no, in Quran, doesn't come that women are not allowed to go and work. So I think we can use the basic principle, the custom rule, and according to that, we can build the project and can help back Afghan women. And right now, I also know that the security issue is the first thing, financial crisis, and also health crisis, because I know most of women do not have access to the pads for their cycle in the month. That's like also a kind of issue which will affect the health of women back in Afghanistan. They are not, these issues like health crisis is also an issue that we need to consider while we are doing. 2 days ago, there was a UNICEF meeting with the Taliban back in Kabul. I have seen on social media their picture. There wasn't any woman representative from UNICEF. So why they are doing like that? They are accepting the Taliban thing. I am requesting an international community put pressure on them, because they try to make their government legally. They need the approval of international countries. And by that, they need to, like UNICEF, they should make a rule that these are the list. Please follow these all things. And according to this, we will accept your government. So far as I have heard, like China and some other countries has accepted their government. If it goes further like this, so their government will be accepted by all the countries in the world. So please put pressure, women outside of Afghanistan. Doesn't matter if it's Afghan woman or any other. Please, please be the voice of Afghan women. Like create event like this, share the ideas, come together, put pressure on your government that the basic rules of women should be followed in Afghanistan. And that is according to the Islam as well. That's not something new from European agenda. This is the Islam rule as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Please don't forget to write to us, to everyone, what is the word in Pashto or Dari about solidarity. This was Cynthia's request. So maybe we are going to use your word to spread out what you just told us. So thank you very much for this emphasis on pressure. So we need to find ways to put pressure on actually our government, to put pressure on the Afghan government. This is what I gather from what you say. So thank you very much. Let me turn now to a question that we were asked in the chat, which comes from Simona Hobinku. What can be done, and the question is addressed to Cynthia and to Iulia, what can be done so that women like Aisha can leave Afghanistan now? This is the question. It's a very straightforward question.
Julia, you want to start? Because I bet you know more about the legalities of immigration law.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure that I know what happened. I think you know that maybe this question, maybe Lisa can answer better. But as for my own knowledge, if these women they have the passport, as Aisha mentioned, they can ask for some assistance and they can go in other countries. I think this is also by different channel of humanitarian assistance. But I'm wondering, and this is a question related to them because they know more the situation of the ground. What happens if they do not have this this passport? And I suppose that the Taliban regime will not issue the passport in order to have people traveling abroad and asking for the assistance abroad and talking abroad about the violation of human rights there in Afghanistan. For those who have passports, I think it's easy because they can benefit. It's easy. They can benefit for this humanitarian assistance. The problem is, as Aisha told us, how extensive they can be. If this humanitarian assistance can cover everybody in Afghanistan who is in a difficult situation, women especially, because we are talking about them in difficult situation, also as they mentioned, in difficult financial situation, because they cannot work, they cannot also live anymore. So this is the main question that we have to put.
I would just add that for all of us listening, whatever our country is, know who in your own national legislature is on immigration committees or related committees to refugees. And people in legislatures don't sometimes have a lot of power over the bureaucracy, but they are our entry point for most of us as local voters. And so I would say I've only started to make a list in the US Congress of which members of the House and the Senate, we have two chambers in the national legislature of the US, but I've just started to make, I mean, really, I'm really late. I've just started to make a list of who are the members of the US Congress who are on committees that specialize in refugee issues and immigration issues. And I've started to call them and email them. And I would suggest that for all of us in all our different countries, find out who supposedly, allegedly, theoretically, in our national legislatures are responsible or specialize in immigration and asylum and refugee issues, and put pressure on them and tell your friends how to put pressure on them. Spread the word on social media, use their names a lot, you know. and make them aware that they have a responsibility to Aisha and to Lisa and to all their colleagues in Afghanistan, and that they have to step up, and that we're watching them. We know their names. We know their responsibilities in the legislature. And if there is a minister in your current government who is head of a ministry that is responsible for immigration, refugees, or asylum, or humanitarian aid, then start spreading their names. That will make them nicely uncomfortable. And that's putting pressure on the pressure. I mean, I thought that the point you made, Lisa, that we need to put pressure, because the Taliban actually does have what in Greek myth is called an Achilles heel. They do have a weak point. They act as though they don't, but they do have a weak point because they have a need. They have a need. And if you can find out somebody's need, you're much more likely to put effective pressure on them. And the Taliban does currently voice a need for interstate legitimacy, for recognition. Well, that means that nobody outside can claim there's no way to pressure the Taliban. There are ways for all our governments to pressure the Taliban because they have this need, and you can keep withholding that need until they meet conditions for a legitimate player in international politics, and that need is for recognition. So we should find out, start name names inside our own government about who's responsible for refugees, for asylum, and for humanitarian aid. Start spreading their word, call them, tell your friends to call them, and tell them what they need to do. I would just like to respond to one thing that I kind of heard between the lines, both Aisha and Lisa, about what we can do outside. My guess is that most of the people who've taken the effort to be part of this event wouldn't fall into this. But we have a lot of friends and colleagues and neighbors and family members who might. And that is, to be in solidarity means never to talk about Muslims as a group or Islam as, you know, a whole complicated belief system. Never to talk in those terms, that because what it does is it re-emphasizes the worst kind of misinformation about what the Quran actually says, about what Islamic feminists, that's not an oxymoron, that's not a contradiction, what Islamic feminists have been saying for decades now in a number of countries, Malaysia and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Indonesia. That is, so we should really make sure that none of our colleagues make sweeping statements about Islam this or Muslim people that, because that really does play into the worst of undermining of Afghan feminists, no matter what their beliefs are.
Thank you very much, both Iulia and Cynthia. And Iulia would like to say something. Yes, please.
I would like to add something related to the issue of the recognition. I think that Lisa mentioned what I said about the General Assembly not accepting the credential of the Taliban government means that all the democratic countries in this world, I'm sure, because they have certain responsibility under international law, will not recognize the regime, the government. But the problem is with the non-democratic ones. There we have less control over their behavior, and because themselves, you know, they are building sometimes this coalition of the wrong countries, the rogue countries in the world. But for the others, I think that regarding international law and their responsibilities, we don't have to have fear, and this will be indeed a tool of pressure for the Taliban. I'm not sure that this will be enough, but this will be something for them.
Thank you, Iulia, for coming back to this issue. It's very tough, actually, I believe, for democratic countries to keep up with this line, given the fact that there are quite a number of countries which either recognized already and they are in the neighborhood, they have interest, economic interest, financial interest, power interest, and so on and so forth. So I think this is probably an open question and a dilemma, I think, for democratic countries, how to behave with the the Taliban officials right now. So, this is a very complicated issue, very complex, and I think this might be subject for further discussions and thinking, lots of thinking about this, and definitely with the support of Afghan women like Aisha and Lisa. So, because we are getting close to our event, I would like to offer the floor for 2 minutes to each Aisha and Lisa to tell us what they take and what they give to us in terms of suggestions as to what we can do. Aisha, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am, from all of you. Today, I feel, after a long time, I feel hopeful that the world didn't forget has. Today, I feel that maybe I would find my freedom again, because currently I'm feeling that I'm under prison. I have a lot of things to tell you, but currently the time deficiency and some security situations, I can't tell you. But thank you so much from all of you.
You are very welcome, and we are with you in thought, and not only in thought. We are trying to do our best here. Lisa, please.
It's really like sometimes I get so emotional to see that back there are lots of Afghan women in my country, like Aisha, that they are suffering. So my suggestion from everyone is that please do not forget Afghan women, because they have fight a lot. In the past 20 years, they have fight a lot. But unfortunately, I don't know who to blame. Actually, I really don't know whether I should blame my government, whether I should blame US government or any other one. I really don't know who to blame. But the biggest price is now paying Afghan citizens. Afghan woman is paying the biggest price of this never-ending war. So don't forget them. Put pressure on your governments. If there are other feminist movement, international communities, please try to help Aisha and other women like Aisha to get out from the country, because I know how the security situation is, because my sister left 2 days ago Afghanistan, so I know how bad the situation for the women are over there. As Sunita suggests, please put pressure on whomever you know have the power. Put pressure to them, and even a small step will bring a positive change. A small effort will change a Afghan woman's life. So please come together and support Afghan women in any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We are trying. We are going to put together all these ideas that were mentioned in our meeting today, and we are going to circulate them. So this is a first step. And then I hope that we are going to keep in touch and help you as much as we can with our knowledge, with our connections, with our political, as Cynthia was suggesting, to talk with the politicians who are responsible, and also with organizations that work in this area of humanitarian aid and not only. So do keep in touch with us and write to us whatever you think is needed. And this is, I think, I don't know, the basics of what we can build on, communicate and see what we can do together. Aisha is saying that she wants to share with us a few pictures and videos from inside Afghanistan. Please do, please do. And we are going to circulate them further. Yes, yes, you have an email address, and thank you very much for suggesting this and for thinking of sending us more materials from inside. I have no words to thank all of participants of our keynote speakers, to Aisha, to Lisa, to Cynthia, to Iulia. I would like to address special thanks, even if she's not here, to Alina Isaac Alak, who helped me to find Lisa. I would like, she's Alina Isaac, she's teaching at the University of Vienna right now. She's a specialist in Islam, and she's a really a great person, but she's going to be in our circle. And I would like to thank Simona Hobinku, who helped me invite Aisha, and very much I appreciate that, Simona. And all those people I asked to help me in finding Afghan women speakers. There were many more, but these two friends succeeded, and I thank you very much. And in the end, just to say thank you to my team, special thanks to my team. I would like to single out just a few names. Ana Maria Angelescu, Andrea Mitan, Cosmin Grigore, Ioana Blaga, Rebecca Bischutz. So thank you very much, and the whole team, but they were the closest to organizing this event. Thank you very much to all of you, and I hope we will keep in touch and we will keep the flame of solidarity together. Thank you very much, Ambassador Echeverria from Peru, of Peru, in Bucharest, who just addressed very, very kind message at the very end. And thank all the participants in this event for being with us and for spreading the word about the situation of Afghan women. All the best to everybody. Thank you.